Good morning. I am Emily Shuckbrough, Director of Cambridge Zero and Co-Chair of Climate Expo. It's my great pleasure to welcome the Right Honourable Alok Sharma and the Italian Ecological Transition Minister Roberto Cingolani.
Over the years, it is academic evidence, research and rigour that have helped to make the case for climate action, to push the issue up the political agenda, and of course to shape the world's response to it. And today, I'm asking the global academic community to deploy that research and that rigour through innovations and insight to help us deliver on our aims for COP26, and particularly our ambition to put the world on the path to net zero. Because your research can help to drive up government ambition and, vitally, action by demonstrating the scale of the threat we face, the knock-on benefits of action, and of course the solutions available. And your evidence is essential if government responses are to be grounded in science, which they of course must be. So please, get involved in discussions with politicians and policymakers, make clear to them the full scale of the threat of climate change and the crisis that we will unleash if we do not act in time.
The global challenge of decarbonization and mitigation of global warming can be won only by an unprecedented effort in research and technology, combined with a massive investment in education and public awareness. In order for the COP26 to be very effective, we need to strengthen international collaborations to reach the zero emission target. For this, the work of research institutes and universities is crucial, but thinking out of the box is necessary to revert the trend of our world. Long-term sustainability requires a serious, honest commitment to preserve our environment, to protect vulnerable countries, to defend the jobs of weaker people, to reduce inequalities, and to let Homo sapiens prosperate in the future.
The first day of Climate Exp0, we will explore how the global recovery can work in tandem with and deliver on climate goals. To be successful, a green recovery needs to balance environment, law, finance, and society, ensuring that the transition to climate-compatible future is just and socially equitable across the globe and populations.
Over the last 150 years, society in many countries of the world has completely transformed. Now, as the warming increases, if we look to the next slide, we'll see that the risks both to nature, to people and to businesses significantly multiply. This is our opportunity in the final slide to create a world that we can actually be proud of leaving as a legacy of future generations.
Are our systems fragile? We have all of our supply chains are evolved to be efficient, just-in-time supply chains, but those are fragile to disruptions. And our exposure and vulnerability is shaped by very much political, economic and social factors, and also the perception of the hazard. Wealth accumulation doesn't increase well-being, it just increases the problems and the anxiety associated with the problems of living in a world that's becoming increasingly unstable.
The panel will discuss global perspectives of a responsible green recovery. The pandemic in many ways has put into perspective the challenges of reaching net zero actually are.
Without investment in resilience in the critical areas of health, education, aged care, childcare, the resilience of communities, then the world indeed simply deepens the inequalities. Can I tell you that of the NDCs to date, we are barely more than 25% of the way there in terms of 2030 targets.
I think one of the greatest challenges for me as a politician is I see the polling around net zero, and just 4% of the population actually understand what net zero is. There are one institution above all. It is universities that can act using their existing networks into local society as well as their international networks to reach across countries.
My takeaway is let's avoid analysis paralysis. We have so much data from our research that it's really easy to get bogged down and to always be looking for the best and the optimal and the long-term solution. Sometimes you just have to get on and do things that you know are making a positive difference.
Just to give you an idea of what scale of investment we're talking about here, it is really not very big at all compared to what countries are spending on their pandemic responses. You do not want to make a green recovery investment. It doesn't come with some environmental benefit attached to it.
The main conclusion from this part of the analysis was that the biggest determinant of increased impact is the overall scale of economic growth. Overall, we find that the green recovery can perform better on a global scale in economic terms.
The key point here, as I just mentioned, is design. Once we have understood the trade-offs, what are the design elements that can minimize these trade-offs and that can transform them into co-benefits?
We need to look better at natural capital assets in particular and understand the links between those and the economy much better.
First, we really need more kind of interdisciplinary research. So modelers from the environment and climate change need to work closer with kind of social sciences and especially looking at political economy questions.
What measures beyond economics are critical in a just and socially equitable green recovery?
People do value local social and environmental benefits, cleaner air, safer streets, and some of the community action that we've seen.
So what I want to talk about right now is really a new way to think about business models. Farms shouldn't just be growing food or creating products. They should also offer social services.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to this ongoing interesting discussion about the important question of what a socially equitable green recovery might look like. The outcome of what we do is not a good reflection of our values, but rather a reflection of our limited resources.
So these things, in fact, relate to nature, because nature and life, they are related.
The COP21 and the Paris Agreement, they finally highlighted the important role that local communities need to play.
Food and drink contributes in the region of 20% of Greater Manchester's footprint. So if you're looking for a target for green and just recovery, then the food system is really somewhere to look. Don't just give us another academic report that we can plonk on our pile.
The need to stimulate investment and have new technologies and infrastructure is key. A place-based approach, I think, is very well suited to take account of local circumstances and therefore should be able to embed the principles of a just transition.
And what I'm suggesting today is it's now time to change what we think the economy is for across very different contexts, from London to Beirut, to Dar es Salaam. Our research on rethinking prosperity through co-design with communities has consistently identified secure livelihoods as the most important factor for people's prosperity.
If a city goes forward and develops a plan, what about the region surrounding it, which may not be included in that plan? Are those people disadvantaged in some way?
The main way that you do this is make sure that those political priorities of the here and now are met by decent climate action. So that's about a decent green recovery, creating jobs, offering people things that they already want and need. If you really want to get to net zero, you're going to have to change the rules.
The recovery and us coping with COVID-19 has really taught us, like never before perhaps, is how inequality is really a root and core issue that needs to be tackled. We've got to find ways in which research and policy can interact in effective ways. We need to become comfortable with the uncomfortable.
In spite of all the kind of challenges that we had over the last year, public concern and desire for action on climate change remains high. Where cities were taking a kind of co-benefits approach to tackling climate change, they were found to take 2.5 times more climate actions as a city.
You fundamentally cannot solve justice issues or represent communities from a distance, even with the best of intentions, right? If you want to get serious on the justice side of things, whether that's social, economic, climate, energy, all justice, then you have to get serious about bringing the people at the sharp end of injustice into the conversation.
If, as a campaigner, you want to make everybody like you, you're definitely going to lose.
So if there's anything that people take away from the stuff that I've mentioned today, please let your local officials know the change that you want to see.
get more different types of people involved in the conversation, interested in the conversation.
Let's get out of our silos and let's speak to individuals and implement projects with individuals we may not normally do.